Mind Emission Wednesday. Hemispheres. High performance state. Discovering new stuff. You never know when you might happen to stumble across something which is absolutely paradigm shifting as far as your work goes. And it could be right there, right under your nose, right under your hands. And you just have to be in the right state, the right sort of high performance discovery state. So I'm going to make a small adjustment to the new code idea of a high performance state. I think there are many different types of high performance states. One of the high performance states where I tend to live a lot is a high performance discovery state, okay? Seeing things, seeing patterns, seeing possibilities that are not necessarily visible or accessible to other people in sort of ordinary waking, get through the day state. Philosopher, early 20th century philosopher Bergson made a very important point, even though much of Bergson's philosophy is somewhat overwritten and relegated to the past, but he made a very important point. It's absolutely essential for you, my viewers, listeners, to understand this point. He said that the eye can only see what the mind is prepared to accept. And what Bergson is saying is that vision or seeing happens on two levels. One is what we would call the perceptual level, the actual processing of visual data. And seeing happens on a conceptual level. So there's a processing level and a conceptual level of seeing. And for someone to take in and make sense of and incorporate into their map of the world any information out there, one has to have a conceptual preparedness. One has to have concepts or categories in place which allow one to see certain things. All right, enough arm waving. Our investment today is this one roll of blue masking tape, 2 pairs of protective goggles, and our book we looked at, Fredric Schiffer's book on dual mind psychology. And Schiffer was the psychiatrist at Harvard who has developed this idea of the 2 hemisphere psychology using his prepared goggles. So let's see where that takes us. Total investment, by the way, $21.74 US. $21.74 to set this thing up. So permit me to demonstrate. This is the left hemisphere goggle. So what this does is this only permits visual information to come in to the retina on the left hemisphere side of the retina. This is a modified Schiffer goggle, and because I'm speaking now, I'm not involved in a sort of a discussion about anything therapeutic. I feel like my left hemisphere is very engaged in a kind of very straightforward, discursive way, and then I will put on the right hemisphere goggle. Wow. Fascinating, really fascinating. My head is in an immediately different kind of place, and it's really hard for me to articulate how the differences function in terms of my thought, but it's a very different side of me, I think. It feels different. There's a definite valence difference in feeling. So that's the right hemisphere goggle. Wow, that was that was very pure, whatever that was. And then over here, my left hemisphere side. That's really a significant difference, and it's not a simplistic difference. I can't say, well, that's just a kind of a one-dimensional difference in how I'm thinking. There are clearly very noticeable distinctions in, you might say, where my head is at, or where my mind is at, with the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. this would really be intriguing to run a portion of a training, like a module of a training, with people experimenting with these different sides. I just feel different. I feel bodily different. My body feels different. My thought processes feel different. Just sort of my general tone feels different. This side definitely feels a little more euphoric. It's lighter. It's less linear. Although I'm probably still feeding a lot of stuff over to my speech centers on the left hemisphere in order to generate the speech. So I might have a really, really different response if I was just receptively listening or kicking back or engaging in some kind of dialogue. I'm not sure. But there is a very distinct, I sense, a very distinct processing, personality, body map kind of difference between these two. So for $21, and I'm sure this could be done much more nicely if you had some extra time, maybe with masking and spray paint or something. You could really make some groovy goggles and play with these more. But that seems like a fantastic way to start exploring hemispheric differences and developing training parts, training modules, therapy parts, simply differences in dialogue, differences in interaction, exploring how people engage certain processes in a left side way and a right side way. So $22 max, and that's New York City prices, and you could build these, and I'm sure they could be done more nicely. We could experiment with the slits and how far over to make the thing, and other refinements. But as just a one step, here is something we can immediately take into the NLP structure and immediately start making use of. I think there's really something to this. So let's play with that. There's something that we could do some really amazing advances in training just using Schiffer's method.